Hey everyone, and welcome! Today, we're going to dive into a really famous story from William Shakespeare called The Merchant of Venice. It's an amazing tale all about friendship, love, and a very, very risky promise.
So, before we jump in, I want you to think about this for a second. What is a promise really worth? I mean, really. This whole question is right at the center of our story today, so keep that in your head as we go through it.
Okay, first up, a story in Venice. We're going way back in time to the beautiful city of Venice in Italy. Just imagine a place where the streets are made of water. Instead of cars, people get around in these cool boats called gondolas. That's where everything happens.
Okay, so let's meet the people in our story. You've got to know who's who, right?
First up, meet Antonio. He's a rich merchant in Venice, which basically means he's a businessman who buys and sells things. He's got a lot of money, but the most important thing to know about Antonio? He's a really, really good friend.
And this is Bassanio. He's Antonio's best friend. Now, Bassanio is totally in love with a wonderful woman named Portia, and he really wants to marry her. But there's a small problem. He's broke. He needs some money so he can go and try to win her over.
And here's Portia. She's the woman Bassanio wants to marry. And you can totally see why, right? She's beautiful, she's rich, but on top of all that, she is super, super smart.
And finally, we have Shylock. His job is being a moneylender, so he lends people money and they have to pay him back. Now, one really important thing to know is he does not like Antonio. Not at all. And this is going to cause some big problems.
Okay. A dangerous promise. Now that we know everybody, the real story can get started. And it all kicks off with a promise. A very, very dangerous one.
So remember, Bassanio needs money, right? And Antonio, being such a great friend, really wants to help him out. But here's the thing. All of Antonio's money is tied up in his big merchant ships, and they're all out on the ocean, far, far away.
So, Antonio goes to the only person he can think of for a loan, Shylock. Yep, the guy who doesn't like him. At first, it seems pretty simple. Antonio asks for money, Shylock says yes, but he adds a really, really weird condition to the deal. Antonio thinks, my ships will be back soon, no problem. So he agrees.
So what was this strange condition? You ready for this? Shylock says that if Antonio can't pay the money back on time, he can take a pound of Antonio's flesh. Yes, you heard that right, a piece of his body. It's a shocking, terrible deal, and it's where all the trouble begins.
Next up, a clever plan. I mean, with a deal like that, things are getting pretty intense, right? Now we get to the really exciting part of the story, where someone needs a super clever plan to save the day.
And then the worst possible thing happens. Bad news arrives. All of Antonio's ships, they're lost at sea. Just like that, his money is gone. He can't pay Shylock back, and that horrible, dangerous promise, it's suddenly very, very real.
So what does Shylock want? You might think he just wants the money, but no. He's angry. He's past wanting money now. What he really wants is revenge. He wants to use this deal to hurt Antonio. So the whole thing goes to court. It looks really bad for Antonio. It seems like there's no hope. But then a surprise hero shows up to help. It's Portia. But wait, she's dressed up as a young male lawyer, so nobody knows it's her. And guess what? She has a plan.
And this is where Portia's brilliant plan comes in. She stands up in court and says, okay, the deal is a deal. Shylock can take his pound of flesh. But, she says, the deal says a pound of flesh. It doesn't say anything about blood. So he can take the flesh, but he can't spill even one drop of Antonio's blood.
Now, think about that. Is it possible to cut a pound of flesh without spilling any blood? Of course not. It's totally impossible. Shylock is trapped, he can't do it, he loses the case, and just like that, Antonio is saved. What a twist!
So, that's the main story. But what can we learn from it all? Let's talk about some of the big ideas in The Merchant of Venice.
Well, what does this story teach us? First, that mercy is way better than revenge. Shylock wanted revenge, but in the end, mercy and cleverness won. It also shows us how important true friendship is. I mean, look at what Antonio was willing to do for Bassanio. And finally, it's a big warning that prejudice, judging people before you know them, can lead to really terrible things.
So, that brings us back to a really big question, and I'll leave you to think about this one.
Which is more important, following the rules word for word or being kind and showing mercy? It's a tough one, and it's what makes this story so interesting even today. Thanks so much for joining me to explore The Merchant of Venice.